libel that Jews eat Christian children. That's a dog whistle. And you start to refer in this kind of clever way to certain group of people in Hollywood corrupting blacks and killing Michael Jackson. You're not allowed to then put on an innocent look and say, well, I'm just saying there's certain people, just like few, it's not, I'm just saying, you're messing with us. You're messing.
I just want to be clear. Earlier in this segment, Andrew Klaven specifically calls out Black gangs and Black crime. So in my opinion, it's a little bit hypocritical of him to say like, yeah, I have no problem calling out Black crime because there are problems in Black culture. Later, he criticizes Candace Owens for criticizing, the actions of Jewish people or people who happen to be Jewish. You can't really have things both ways, but in any case.
With us, and everyone knows it, and no one is fooled except those people who want to pretend to be fooled because they hate the Jews. The biggest truth that Candace told in that way that I find, again, and this is not personal animus toward her, but I find difficult to excuse this when anybody does it. The truth that hid wickedness that I thought was the most wicked truth to use was the truth that Christ is king.
What?
It is almost exactly 20 years since I acknowledged the kingship of Christ in my life and over the universe as well.
He kind of goes into his own testimony here, not really pertinent to the conversation.
My king is king of the universe. But when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews.
I'm just gonna pause right there. And I want to ask a question because, listen, man, I was raised in like a Catholic family, but so both my mother and my father's side of the family were Catholic. My father had 4 brothers and sisters. My mother had 7. There were 8 of them total, I think. So large Catholic families. Both my mother and my father went to Catholic school with the nuns, with the rulers, the whole 9. Me and my brother were, I'm fairly certain, the only people on both sides of our family, the only of the children who were not raised Catholic. We were never baptized. We rarely went to church. Really, the only reason we went to church is if there was a baptism or a big occasion or something, or a wedding or something like that. So I was raised kind of in the periphery of Catholicism, but I wasn't directly involved in it. And it was never a real part of my life. But I kind of I observed Catholicism, if I can say that. I can't remember a time in my personal life where I thought and believed that the Jews were God's chosen people. I don't mean any disrespect by that, but it's never been, I know that the Jews believe they're God's chosen people, but I never believed that the Jews were God's chosen people. And so it's a little odd for me to listen to someone who, he is Jewish, but he converted to Christianity, to say that the Jews were God's chosen people. Because I'm and I'm honestly asking, do people believe that? Is that something the majority of people believe? Regardless of if you're Jewish or not, do people in the chat believe that the Jews are God's chosen people? Protestants do. Aaron says Christians do not. Tough Love says no. Well, yeah, I'm saying that Jews believe it about themselves, but do other people believe it about, and I'm like, I don't care if Jews believe it about themselves, but like, do other people believe that Jews are God's chosen people? Is that like a thing? Okay, let me put a poll in the chat. And sorry, I can only do this on YouTube. Are Jews God's chosen people? Yes, no. Start poll. I'm seeing like a mix of answers and I just want to get more concrete numbers. Because that was honestly really jarring for me to hear Andrew Klaven say that, like, as a Christian, he believes the Jews are God's chosen people. I don't understand that. Let me just rewind that again.
King of the universe. But when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews, you are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible. You are quoting scripture to your purposes, and that to me is specifically wicked. You know?
So what Andrew Klaven is arguing is that if you do not believe the Jews are God's chosen people, you are anti-Semitic. You guys heard that, right? That is the implication of what Andrew Klaven is arguing. He's saying that if you question at all that the Jews are God's chosen people, that is a profound declaration of anti-Semitism. Am I wrong? It looks like, according to the poll of the chat so far, 73% of you do not believe the Jews are God's chosen people. And 26% of you do. I mean, listen, like, if people want to be offended that I say the Jews are not God's chosen people, like, I'm very sorry, but like, the Jews are like, I'm not calling for the Jews to be fucking eradicated. I'm just saying, guess what, Jews? You are no more valuable than anyone else. You're no more chosen. You're just like the rest of us. You're just like the rest of us. Like, this is not anti-Semitic. It is not anti-Semitic to say you are not superior to everyone else. Let's just listen. I just want to listen to that one more time because I want to make sure I understand what I want to make sure my interpretation is correct.
Chosen people, the Jews.
I need to rewind
exactly 20 years since I acknowledged the kingship of Christ in my life and over the universe as well.
He kind of goes into his own testimony here, not really pertinent to the conversation.
My king is king of the universe. But when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews, you are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible. You are quoting scripture to your purposes, and that to me is specifically wicked. You know, when you
Yeah, I mean, he is saying that, right? He is saying that if you do not believe the Jews are God's chosen people, if you say anything that implies that the Jews are not God's chosen people, that is wickedly anti-Semitic. That's a bit much.
spit that.
Okay, so there's so much to say in this segment. I could really dedicate an entire video or even live stream to going through everything that he says that is, I'm sorry, but dishonest. And that pains me to say because I've been a fan of Andrew Klaven for a long time. And it's disturbing to me to see him spout so much false doctrine when it comes to Christianity and also just, I mean, basically leftist talking points when it comes to bigotry being whatever I say it is, as well as, and I would even go so far as to say that there's actual Jewish supremacy in this segment.
Yes,
but to be
Lauren,
clear, it seems to me like what Andrew Klaven is basically saying here is that saying Christ is king is anti-Semitic and hateful because the people who are saying it are implying that God has abandoned Jews who are his chosen people.
That Ben Shapiro, my friend Ben Shapiro, And I understand this. All of you who love Ben, and I love Ben, and Jordan Peterson, you all want to see them find Jesus because you know what joy and freedom that gives you, and you certainly feel that it.
Yes, Andrew, you are absolutely expressing that joy and freedom as you are going on your show to shill talking points given to you by Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro to declare that the Jews are God's chosen people and you are anti-Semitic if you don't agree with us. It really does seem to me, Andrew, like you have a tremendous amount of freedom in this capacity, and you definitely aren't doing it under pressure from your bosses, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring, to shill the talking points to the world. And you guys know why they selected Andrew Klaven to do this, right? They selected Andrew Klaven to do this because he was a Jew that converted to Christianity. And so he presents the best face for it because he can say, look, guys, I'm a Christian just like you, but this is anti-Semitic because the Jews are God's chosen people. And we need to acknowledge that they're God's chosen people and they are supremacists over all of us. But I'm a Christian just like you, so you should listen to me.